Good morning and welcome to Cooking Cuisine. I am your host, Chef Dopey D, and it is wonderful to have you along on this journey with us as we try to discover new and uncommon cuisines that you can try at your home. One place that I find that is very good to find strange recipe is Old Cookbook. Here I have Old Cookbook, and I have selected a recipe for us today. The recipe is rich shortcake, and as you can see, I will be using a short pan today because if you are going to cook a shortcake, you will want to use a short pan. Here are the ingredients, only a few: flour, baking powder, sugar, butter, egg, and milk. What we must do, and I always recommend this, is to get all your ingredients together first before you begin to assemble the cake. As you can see, I have them here all laid out, and we go through the recipe. We see that there are 2 cups of enriched flour. Now, I do not know what makes a rich flour, but it is early in the spring, so I could only find one kind of flours. I hope these will be rich enough. Also, you can see that I have the rest of the ingredients, but as we go through, we see one thing that must be done still, and that is, as you can tell, I have not yet cracked my egg. And the recipe calls for 1 well-beaten egg. Pardon me for 1 second. This is a special kitchen tool. I do not usually use it for making cakes. It is more for meat tenderizing. But today I think it will work very well to make sure that our egg is well beaten. It is working very well. I think that should do it. Alright, now all that remains is for us to add the rest of the ingredients, assemble them together, and then we will put it into the pan and bake in a very hot oven, 450 degrees, but only for 15 to 18 minutes. Because after that, the rich shortcake will be ready for us to take out and to enjoy.
Dad? What are you doing?
Just making a little TV, Becca.
What is this mess?
I'm trying to make a cooking channel, and it's called Uncommon Cuisine, so I tried to find a strange recipe that I could share with the people on my channel, and they might find interesting, and then, well, they could make it themselves at home.
Is that why there's dandelions?
Well, it says in there in the recipe that it's supposed to be enriched flours, and I don't know what makes rich flours, but these were the only flours
Dad.
I could find.
It's flour. F-L-O-U-R. Spelling matters. See? Oh my.
Welcome back. I am sorry to report that this recipe does not appear to be as uncommon as I had first imagined. But stay tuned for more recipes, and we will see you next time on Uncommon Cuisine. Wow, what a great show. What an incredible idea. That chef is a genius. You know, that show kind of reminds me of a story from the Old Testament found in 2 Kings chapter 4. It's about the prophet Elijah. No, it was the prophet Elisha who came after him. One day, Elisha was out with the prophets. Well, you know what? I can read it for you. Hold on. Oh, here we go. 2 Kings chapter 4, beginning in verse 38. It says that Elisha came again to Gilgal, which is a town, and when there was a famine in the land. And as the other prophets were sitting before him, he said to his servant, "Set on a large pot and boil stew for the sons of the prophets." One of them went out into the field to gather herbs, and found a wild vine, and gathered from it his lap full of wild gourds. He came and he cut them up and put them into the pot of stew, not knowing what they were. And they poured some out for the men to eat. But while they were eating of the stew, they cried out, "Oh, man of God, there's death in the pot. It was poisonous gourds." And they could not eat it. But Elisha said, "Then bring some flour." And he threw it into the pot, and he said, "Now pour it out for the men, that they can eat it again." And then there was no harm in the pot. Well, that is a wild story. Now, what's even more incredible is after that, a man came and he brought some bread and 20 loaves of barley and other grain in his sack. And Elisha said, "Give some to the men so they can eat." And they gave some to the men. But they said, "How can we set this before 100 men? There isn't enough, right?" Well, look what happened. Elisha said, "Give it to the men so they may eat. For thus says the Lord, they shall eat and have some left." And so he set it before them, and they ate, and they even had some left over, according to the word of the Lord. Now that's a really amazing story. Because here they are, and they're trying to eat some stuff. Worse than that. And it wasn't good for anybody. But you know, God worked a miracle that day. In fact, he did 2 of them. One was that the pot wasn't poisonous anymore, and the stew that was in it. And then secondly, there was enough food for everyone. Even though they started out with not enough food, by the time they were done, they still had leftovers after that. Now that would be pretty amazing. So what are the lessons out of this story for us? Well, I think it might be wise to learn 2 lessons. One is, you better be careful what you put into your cooking. Maybe somebody should tell that to the chef. But then the second one is that God can do things that we can't. Because he's amazing. He can do things called miracles. And the Bible is full of miracles. In the Old and the New Testament, we see that God did amazing things for his people to help them, to save them, to ensure that they were safe, and many, many other things. In this case, to make sure they had enough to eat. Isn't it amazing to know that God is that powerful and that amazing, that he can even do miracles? Now that is an awesome lesson for us today. And I hope you learn it. And also, I hope maybe before you start to cook, you might think about what you're going to put in for your ingredients and double check to make sure that everything that you're putting in is the stuff that's really supposed to go in. Well, we want you to remember this story and a lot of other miracles from the Bible. And so one of the things that we're going to have you do to remember this episode is maybe to have a fun activity with your family and do some cooking of your own. And what you could do is you could make something special, and then you could take a picture and you could send it in for our contest this week. But before we sign off for today, I want to tell you who won the contest from last week with the colorful coat. And that person is Gavin. Thanks so much for giving us your entry in last week's contest. Now remember that in order for you to enter this week's contest, you just need to do something in the kitchen with your mom or your dad or your brother, sister, whoever, and take a picture of what you made. I'll bet it's going to be really tasty. And then you can send us that picture and you can be entered into the contest. And Becca is going to tell you exactly how to do that.
If you want to be entered into this week's contest drawing and be eligible to win cool prizes like these, all you need to do is go to Instagram and send us a picture of your entry in a direct message by Thursday of this week. You can find us on Instagram at NHWC Kids Contest. Well, that's all for today, but we will see you next time.